Well, hello everyone. My name is Tristan Evans with Geek Vibes Nation, and today I have the honor and the pleasure of speaking to Mr. David Crownson. David, how are you doing today?
I'm great, like Frosted Flakes. Tristan, how are you?
I'm doing good. I'm doing good. So, Mr. David Crownson is a comic book writer, a comic book creator. He has his own publishing company. He's an actor. So this man has all the credits. He's just collecting all the credits. So we are very excited to be able to sit down with him and to talk about his career and his empire that he is building. So, David, I read somewhere that as a child, you were always interested in theater and acting and comic books and writing. And so, where I want to start, I want to ask you to share a little bit about your background with this, because I'm always interested in hearing about how people turn childhood interest and how they translate that into adult careers that are thriving and successful. So could you talk a little bit about how you went from a child who enjoyed all these things to an adult who has thriving career in all these areas?
Yeah, but it's just as weird because I don't know, as a kid, I wrote like this little comic strip about insects, like these like bugs who were going to Hollywood. And I just remember writing it down. It was a cartoon. It was just a fun, goofy thing. But I never like thought about becoming a actor or like a filmmaker or anything in comics. And this is when I was living in Kingswood, New Jersey. And I just always gravitated to, like, I loved watching TV. I loved story. I loved reading books. I loved comic books, and my dad got me into comic books and comic strips. And I just, it's something about like that storytelling just kind of resonated with me. But I couldn't draw, so I was like, oh, I can't, like, at this time, like, this is like early 90s, like Todd McFarlane is the top person, and he's writing and drawing comics. So I thought, oh, you can only do comic books if you can draw. So like, I can't draw for shit. And like so I made like little funny cartoon scribble scrabble things. So I thought I was going to end up being a cartoonist, but couldn't really. But yeah, I just had trouble with that because I don't know. It was like my drawings were just bad, guys. So I just thought I would end up as an actor or a director or a screenwriter, because I just loved movies and I loved TV shows. Like growing up watching basically Family Matters, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, Martin, the Wayans Brothers, The Simpsons. Those were my TV shows. And I thought about like, oh, like I want to be in performance because I like doing things in front of people. And I was really comfortable being in a crowd. So I did all the plays in high school. And then I signed up for performing arts high school and loved it. Like, I loved the theater. I loved doing it. So I was okay. I guess I'm going to do it. Like there wasn't like any like talk or conversation of like, we have to have a very serious talk about this career. I was just like, yeah, I'm just going to do this and like, see what happens and hope for the best. I went to Neighborhood Playhouse School of Theater. Went to Academy of Art University, studied acting, majored in acting and minored in screenwriting. And and just kind of kept doing plays and theater, being involved in theater as much as I could, getting into like a little bit of like playwriting and a little bit of like directing like short one-act plays. And then the comic book stuff just kind of happened by accident, like totally by accident. I think I was auditioning for, this is like 10 years of me being in New York City, and I auditioned for this independent movie called Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It wasn't called Star Wars: The Force Awakens. It was called Star Wars 7 at the time. But like, I auditioned for this movie. I didn't get the part.
They're lost. Just gonna put that out there.
Yeah, exactly. They're lost, damn it. I didn't even want that. No, I'm kidding. John Boyega's doing great. My parents are from Ghana, West Africa. And I was living in New York. And my mom was just like, hey, I think like you need to take a break from being in New York City because you've just been nonstop for the last 10 years, just working. You've either been auditioning or you've been in plays, or you're just like you don't have a life. You're just working. And I think you should come and move in and live with us in Ghana for a little bit. So just so you can reconnect with your roots. And at first I was like, I ain't doing that. And my mom said, hey, like if you don't get any of these auditions, so I had 3 auditions, and it was for the Untitled Star Wars sequel as the lead. Well, first it was a smaller supporting role. Then they were like, oh, we like him. Let's have him read for the lead. Like just see what happens. And then this other TV show, and Orange is the New Black. And my mom was like, if you don't get, and these were 3 big auditions within the same month. And my mom was like, all right, if you don't get any of these auditions, you are taking a break. You are going to give up your apartment. You're going to take a leave of absence from your jobs, and you're going to come live with us. And I was like, man, I ain't doing it. And then I didn't get the part in any of that. I had a bunch of callbacks and didn't get any of them. So I was like, at the time, like I probably should, looking back at it now, I should have been like, wow, what a cool thing that I had callbacks and I was considered for these things. But at the time I was like depressed, which is like, I felt rejected because acting, auditioning is hard because it's very personal, or it feels really personal. Because like if someone doesn't like my comic book, if someone doesn't like Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, I can say, oh, I got Nightmare in Newark, I got Killer Bee, I have other books you might like. Or even if you're like a salesman and you're selling a bunch of different vacuum cleaners and they don't like this one vacuum cleaner, you have a bunch of other vacuum cleaners you can sell them. With acting, the product is you, and it's really personal. It's like, no, we don't want you. Like that's what it feels like. But a bunch of things factor into why you may or may not get the part in something. Like you might get something, like whenever I would audition for something and I got it, I was like, hey, why did you guys pick me and not this other actor? And they say, oh, we just got along with you the most in the audition. Or it could be a bunch of different things. Like it was down to me and this other actor who dated the director of something that I was auditioning for. And she was just like, oh, he's a great actor, but I don't want to work with him for a month or be around him. So we're picking David. Like so many factors happen. Like, so I moved to Ghana, West Africa, loved it. And then just kind of took time to journal about my time being there, did lots of reading. And I think I was basically just kind of channel surfing. And I stumbled upon like this Harriet Tubman, what's it called? This Harriet Tubman documentary. And Harriet Tubman is hugely celebrated in Ghana, West Africa.
Oh, wow.
Because, they traced her roots to Ghana, to Accra. So she's hugely celebrated. And so I watched this whole entire documentary on Harriet Tubman. I forget what it was called. And started channel surfing some more. And then I ended up on Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And it was the end of Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. And it's the scene where like Zhang Zi and Michelle Yeoh have that big like katana fight scene, and it's so badass. And watch that, dope as hell. I'm like, I'm in motherfucking Africa and I'm watching Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon. This is dope as shit. So like, I was watching that, did more channel surfing, and ended up on like Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. And Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters is a very dope movie. Well, excuse me. Well, at the time, sorry, Tristan, like I thought it was going to be dope. There are parts of the movie that I felt like, I'm like, yeah, this is such cool world building. This is such a great premise. And I felt they didn't take advantage of certain aspects of them as witch hunters. and didn't make them as badass as I wanted them to be. So like, movie didn't sit well with me, and I was like, man, I love this movie. I was so excited to watch it, but cool premise.
Yes.
And I was kind of just writing in my like journal, just about my experience being in Ghana, and I was just like, Hansel and Gretel, witch hunters, didn't like it. I watched a Harriet documentary, and then watched a ton of fight scene, and was just journaling. And then I kind of just like looked at the screen, and these three words kind of like popped up at me, and it was Harriet Tubman, katana fight scene, and witch hunters. And I just was like, Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. Oh shit. That's what I'll make this about. That's what it is. It's Harriet Tubman slaying demons. Wait, what if Harriet Tubman could like move like she does in Crouching Tiger, but she's beating up like all these demons and witches and werewolves, and insist this is going to be great. But I just liked the title, Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. It just kept on like sitting in me. And I kind of like, I didn't know what it was. I'm like, wait, what is it? And then like, I just knew I liked the idea. And I knew like there was a lot of story opportunities, but I wasn't sure where to go. So as soon as I got back into town, into like the States, I went into like one of those like, in the airport where they have those like overpriced bookstores.
Yeah.
I walked by and was just kind of waiting for my layover, and walked into this bookstore and saw like a how to make comic books thing from Brian Michael Bendis. And I'm like, wait, that's it. I'll make it a comic book. Got it. So I didn't buy the book. I waited till I got home and ordered it on Amazon for like $8. I'm like, I'm not spending $80 at the airport.
Right.
Fuck that shit. Overpriced ass airport. So I bought the book, read it, and just kind of taught myself how to like write in comic book scripted full script panel form. And then I spent like about a year kind of figuring out what the story was going to be, and researching about Harriet Tubman, because I didn't know what the story was going. I was like, well, like what should I make this about? What's the story? So it was like really like researching the real Harriet Tubman. And then I watched the entire season of Buffy the Vampire Slayer, like the entire series, because I hadn't watched the whole series yet. So I watched it from like beginning to like the end, just to get that like that mythology kind of built up in me with the vampires and werewolves, and demons, just to see where they come from.
Love that show. Love that entire series. Now I have a quick question.
Yes,
have you ever read the comics, the comic book continuation?
No, I haven't.
What? Well, the fandom is pretty divided on them, but like I really enjoyed season 8, the comic. Like I'm looking at them now on my bookshelf. Like they're good. Season 8, especially, like they really took advantage of like the comic book format. So it was kind of larger than life. Something that was jarring for some people, but like 9, 10, 11, and 12 were more grounded. But yeah, I'm sorry, but please check those out. They're very, very good.
I will. Like, I was looking for them for the longest time. I wanted to get them. I think they were at Barnes and Noble for a hot second. Then I couldn't find them. But I think like, and then I heard that they rebooted it. Like Josh Whedon rebooted it with Boom Studios or something. Yes. Like, I mean, I have a TV deal to make my comic into a TV series now.
Yes, I saw that.
It was long in the waiting, but there was a company that was really interested in my comic book. I won't say who. It's another amazing, dope producer who is black, a black man. And I was like, hey, like, I think you guys should make my comic book into a TV show. And I had a meeting, and I loved the comic. I said, okay, great, let's do it. And then they were like, last minute, they were like, hey, we're going to pull out. And I was like, what? Why? And I really wanted to work with this company. Now I'm happy it didn't happen, because I love working with Prentice Penny.
Right, the Prentice Penny. Like, Yes, that's
Yes,
very cool.
the Prentice Penny who does Insecure. He is dope. He's creative. He's the perfect person. Like I'm extremely happy it didn't happen.
That is awesome. So outside of like TV deals falling through, I want to ask you, like, 'cause I know like that's a part of being a Black creator, but what other struggles and disappointments have you encountered as a Black creator who is creating comic books and writing stories and putting them out there?
A lot of the times you'll create something, and usually people or investors or producers, they want to look at what's going to be the best financial return instead of taking a risk on something that's new and that's creative. Like that's a good idea. I remember this is before I was doing Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. This is when I was working on an idea for a TV show I had called Black Irish. And it was about a girl from Ireland who finds out she's being deported. So in order to evade deportation, she approaches her ex-boyfriend who was going to be played by my black ass. And she basically says like, hey, marry me so I can stay in the country. And he's like, hell no, girl. I ain't doing that. And like, you and I don't get along. And she's like, I'll pay you $40,000 if you marry me. And he was like, I'll do it. So they fake a marriage. She gets her green card. He gets his money. But basically the government is like checking in on them and spying on them to make sure their marriage is legit. So they're forced to move in together, even though they hate each other. And hilarity and comedy ensues, and it's called Black Irish. And I was pitching that to a streaming network, and they decided, and they liked the show. They were going to make it like a web series, but they decided to go with I forget her name now, but the girl who's famous on Dr. Phil for saying "Catch Me Outside." How about that?
Okay, yeah. I can't remember her name, but yeah.
I think it's like Bad Baby or something like that. But this company wanted to invest in her instead. They were like, let's give her money and have her just follow. I think I think it was a reality show. Like they gave her a bunch of money and like they're like, yeah, we're gonna follow her around and like see what happens. And I was like, what? So and then they say we decided to pass on Black Irish. I was like, okay, why? And they made up a bullshit thing. They were like, yeah, like these two things like didn't make sense. And I forgot what it is now, but it was something that was like really like explainable. It was like one sentence that I could have easily been like, oh, because of this. But they just wanted to invest in this girl who had like 100 million views on like Dr. Phil's show. And they're like, oh, if we invest $1 million, we'll get a bunch of money back in return for the streaming of it. So but yeah, you kind of have to not worry, but the best you can do is just make your thing and make the best script, the best story, and you just gotta hope for the best. Like, when it came to Prentice, I think Sebastian Jones, amazing creator, he's his producing partner. He basically, Prentice wanted to make a production company or a section in his production company that develops comic books basically into TV shows and film. And basically Prentice was brought different, extremely awesome, like extremely great, awesome, like other Black independent books by other like amazing, talented people. And he happened to pick my comic, and he liked mine. Mine resonated with him the most out of all these like great, awesome people. So like that's like a blessing, and I'm grateful to God that even like happened, because I probably would, I'd still be making my comic book. I'd still be like trying to put it out there and connect it with like the right people. Yeah, I kind of gave up on trying to make it a TV show or a movie. I was just kind of focused on. Uh, I was really just focused on making my comic, and just I'm like, yo, I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't know who's gonna get involved. I just want to keep making comic books, and this was like during the pandemic too. So I'm like, so I think my book tour was canceled, and I was like homeless. So I had my mom lives in New Jersey, so I went to go live with my mom, and I was like, hey, like I'll always have a roof over my head. I'll always have like my mom and my own peace of mind. I'm just going to keep making this comic book because I love it, and hopefully someone will see that it's cool and we'll take it from there.
Yes, absolutely. That is so awesome. But you mentioned a few things that I wanted to go back and ask you about. So, one thing, the pandemic, like creating during the pandemic, what was that like for you as a creator? Because I know I've heard from different people that for some of them, for example, there's a fantasy writer named Brandon Sanderson who wrote like 4 novels during the pandemic. He ended up with like the biggest backing on Kickstarter like ever because he's offering these novels to his fans. But I've also heard from other creatives that the pandemic just it had the opposite effect. Like they found it hard to produce work. So I want to ask you, like, what was that like for you as a creative to trying to produce as the world is being turned upside down?
Yeah, I think before the pandemic, I had written issues 3 and 4 already. The script was done, and issue 3 was done, and it was drawn, and I was getting ready to go on tour, and I had to kind of do 6 issues for the graphic novel, and I basically was getting ready to go on tour, and I would write comics while I was on tour. So I'm like, okay, I got 2 comics left. I'll easily write issue 5 and 6. They're really easy. I have everything kind of bullet point marked out. But this is gonna be easy. Issue 5 might be a little bit hard to do, but I'll figure it out. Uh, but then like, when like Boston Comic Con got canceled, uh all like Florida Con, the New Orleans, like all the conventions started getting canceled. So I was like, ooh. Then we were like, and it was like May, and we're all inside. So I was like, what the fuck is happening? So I started writing issue 5. I had written the first 11 pages of issue 5, and I took a break. So I'm like, I'm going to write this when I'm on tour. But then my tour was ended. So I'm all right. So I was at home and I started to write issue 5. And I was really struggling with it. Because usually when I write, I go to the library or I go to a coffee shop. But I was like stuck at home with my family and like couldn't go anywhere. So I'm just kind of like, when I'm at home, I'm just chilling out and doing nothing. My brain doesn't work in creative or in work mode. Like when I'm at home, my brain is in, pass me some chips, pass me a cookie. I'm gonna watch something on Netflix mode. So I like really like struggle. And plus like all this crazy stuff was happening outside with like pandemic and like because this was a scary time because it's like, oh, like what if I catch this and don't know if I catch it, and like the news was crazy. Actually that didn't bother me as much because I'm like, okay, I'll just wear my mask everywhere. But just being at home, so I said, okay, let me just work in small little chunks. I'll do 1 page a day. And that's what I did. I would say, okay, I'm going to write 1 page today. If I can do 1 page, or even start even smaller, I'm going to write 1 line of dialogue and take it from there. Because one line of dialogue is like, okay, let me keep it going. Oh, okay, let me keep it going. Let me keep it going. And then I would say 1 page a day. And then I would do 2 pages. Then I would get to 5 pages. So I think it took me, and it was so hard writing, so difficult. It was tough, but working in small chunks helped. But I think what made me, I'm glad the pandemic happened. It was a terrible thing, but at the time I was going to partner with another publisher, and but I always liked the idea of owning or having ownership of my own IP.
Absolutely.
And these other publishers that I worked with, they didn't really seem to care. But I'm like I would say, hey, I want to release my comic book on Halloween, and they'd be like, yeah, we're not doing that. And I'm like, come on, just release my comic book on Halloween. And they would say, no, you're going to do it our way. We're going to release it when we want to. And I'm like, that fucking sucks. But whatever. So I was trying to think and figure out how to go about doing it. And something in me just was like, I should just start my own company. Like, what if I get an investor, or what if I get someone that wants to put money down toward Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer? What if I just start my own company? Like, it was my lawyer's idea. My lawyer was like, I think you should start your own publishing company. Because she didn't like a lot of the publishers that I was looking to work with. She's like, it's just more of a hassle. It's better if you just have your own company. And I just thought about Robert Kirkman. I thought about Image Comics. I'm like, they own their own stuff. They have partners they might have investors and money people who invest in their stuff. But I just like, yeah, I think that's how I got to do it. So I just started Kingswood Comics, and it kind of came to me because I'm like, okay, like Kingswood is where I grew up, and that's where, at least from my childhood, that's where I got the idea of making comic strips and stories and stuff. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to call it Kingswood Comics, and take it from there. 4 months after Kingswood Comics, like, hi, I'm Prentice Penny. I'd like to make your,
that is amazing.
Just taking that risk, because there was a publisher that I was working with, and then another publisher that I thought about working with, and they kept saying like, yo, you can't make it without us. If you're not with us, you'll never fucking make it. And I just was like, hey, you're kind of not nice to me. And I'm just gonna leave, because I don't like how I'm treated, and I don't like I don't like how you treat other people.
Right.
It's not reflective of how I like to be. Deep down, I was like, I think with all artists, you have to trust your instincts and trust your dopeness. Like, I'm like, hey, like, people love Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. People really enjoy that story and the character. And thank God I've picked and worked with some awesome artists over the years. But I think I'm going to get a little preachy now.
Yes, go ahead. Yes, I want to hear it.
Going to get a little sermon. But no, I just think that before God blesses you or promotes you, he has to kind of get rid of the wrong people, and because I think they'll bring you down. So I was in deep with other people who might have hurt my comic book. There was a friend of mine who was an amazing writer who I really wanted to work with, and we actually stopped being friends during the pandemic. And I wanted her to be, if Harriet got adapted into a TV show, I was going to make a contract with her that she would be one of those sole writers on it. I'm so glad her and I aren't friends anymore. And I tore that deal apart because, she wasn't a good person, and was not very nice. That's why I'm just kind of grateful for where I'm at now, and learning a lot. And Prentice is I couldn't have asked for a better partner. I can't think of anyone else that would have been better. I was literally just thinking about kind of meditating on this thing with Prentice, and thinking about other people I've met over the years. And I'm just he's the best one. And not just the best one because we've gotten so far in the development process of the comic to TV. I'm like, this guy understands, like, can is great at scouting talent and also understands story.
Mhm.
Like, everyone talks about Insecure, but I'm like, yeah, we're all emotionally invested in Insecure because of who these characters are in the story. So, like, if he takes that energy and puts it to my thing, but now vampires and demons and witches and werewolves are involved,
Yes, yes,
it's gonna
yes.
be intense. So, like, it's like, yeah, like, he made a show that's just about two friends, two female friends, and an ex-boyfriend, but we care about everyone. Like, that's the type of storyteller that I want on my team. Just makes me feel heard as a uh because I think of myself as, I'm like, thank you, Prentice. But he's like, no, like, you're dope. Like, we love your idea. It's a great idea for a book, and it's an even better idea as a television series. So, like, we want to see it, and I want to assist you and help you in it and support you in it. And he's one of the dopest things he says. I'll never put you in a situation where you're not comfortable. So I'm really excited, Tristan. I'm
That
really
is great. That is great. And I think it's just so important, especially for Black creatives, to have people behind you that understand you and support your work. And like you said, those who are like, no, no, we respect you as a creator. Don't feel like you're beneath us. Don't feel like you're not on our same level. Like, it just seems like Prentice really, he's like, we're here. We're on the same level. We want to hear your ideas. We're going to be right there with you. And that's just very important for all creators, especially creators of color. Because as we know, so often our voices aren't really heard. To ask you, this is kind of a twofold question, because you have your acting career, you have your writing, your publishing company, and I think there are so many people out there who are like, okay, I want to do this and I want to do that, but I know it. Speaking personally, in my experience, I'll say, okay, well, I want to work on writing, and then maybe I'll do that for like 3 months, and I'm like, okay, well, maybe I should be working on this other thing, and then I look and I do so much bouncing back and forth that a year has gone by, and I haven't made any leeway in either area. So I want to ask you, like, how do you balance multiple creative endeavors, and what is your advice in general to people who want to pursue writing and acting and other creative outlets?
do everything. No, I'm kidding. Um, yeah, like, bro, it is hard. Like, because I was with acting. I'm on a show called Bubbly Brown Sugar that was filming, and I was in LA, but then had to fly back to New York City to. I mean, you kind of to finish filming the show is why I flew back here. But I think you have to have an evenly. It's hard. You have to have an even balance of things. Because acting, it's hard to predict when you're going to do it. But I know with my comic book, I at least try to, now that I'm doing things more full time. Because with comic books, sometimes it works really fast. Like, I'll devote these next 3 days to Nightmare in Newark because the script for Harriet Tubman issue 7 is done.
Mhm.
And I got to find the artist for it. So it's getting really organized, getting really disciplined with yourself, and getting really intentional, planning out. Allow time for flexibility. Um, like, I think when I was in LA, I had a day where I was like, all right, I'm gonna sleep in and do nothing. I think my girlfriend, she had a meeting in her I was staying with her in her apartment, but she's like, hey, like, I'm doing this meeting, like, I'm gonna be really loud. Do you mind, like, kind of going for a walk? It's only a 15-minute thing. And I was like, no, 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 it's fine. Like, I'll go to a coffee shop. Like, I guess I'll just get some writing done. And I got like a bunch of writing done for my next book, Nightmare in Newark. But what I'm trying to say is plan, know what your goals are, Like, don't just write just to be like, oh, I want to be writing on this book. Okay, when do you want to be done with this book? How many pages is it going to be? When do you want to have it done so an artist can start drawing it? And then for your next book, I'm stuck on Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer issue. Not stuck, but I'm just focusing. I'm not giving myself too many tasks. Like right now, I know the end game for Kingswood Comics is to have multiple creator-owned books underneath the umbrella of it, and to finance and invest into a bunch of creators who have really great ideas.
That was my next question to you. Did you plan on bringing in other creators eventually?
Yeah. Like that's the next thing. Like I want to kind of, and that's what I want to do. But I know that the money for that's going to come from Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer being a success. So that's me kind of. The graphic novel for Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer is approved. It's proof approved. So, and it's going to take 3 weeks to ship because printing is annoying. And this pandemic affected paper shortages in a huge way. So, right now I'm just kind of focused on Nightmare in Newark and picking the perfect artist for issue 7 of Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, because I want it to be, don't just want it to be good, I want it to be great. But if you're doing multiple things, try to do, I always want to say do whatever you can. Like take on your bandwidth capacity. Like for me, I can't, like Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, the comic, Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, the show, Nightmare in Newark, the comic. That's enough for me right now. Nightmare in Newark is going to be a 7-issue limited series. Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, I'm going to do that. I'm going to do 200 issues of Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer.
So do you have an outline of like where that series is going? And
mm-hmm.
That is awesome. That is so
like
cool.
like we're still in the very early days. Like there hasn't even been we haven't even gotten to the Civil War yet. We haven't even gotten to Abraham Lincoln yet. That like so much is going to happen. I have a full blown outline of where the comic begins, and I know where the next 20 something issues is going to go.
Nice. Have you shared that outline? I'm just curious. Like, have you shared that with Prentice? Like, does that kind of go into the television process too? Like, where they're like,
hilarious. Like right now, we're just in the middle of like, it's very early stages, just getting the perfect showrunner, perfect writer's room for it, and.
Will you be writing on the show?
Yes, I am.
Oh, that is so cool. Yeah, I'm sorry, I got really excited. That's so cool. Because I've been seeing a lot of comic book writers make that transition to like writing books and writing films and writing for TV. So I got really excited. Like I love to see people make that transition to different types of media.
Yeah, man. I think Prentice was like, you're gonna write one episode or you're gonna write 3 episodes. And he wasn't asking me; he was like telling me. I was like, all right, cool, and they're so great because they're very much like, oh, we think it's a good idea if the creator of the thing is intimately involved in the show. So I was like, oh, thank God. I was talking to Prentice's head of development. Her name's Alex Solar, and she's an amazing, talented woman. And she basically, her and I were having a conversation, and we were talking about like just the tone of the show. And then I mentioned like, oh, I made this outline. I made this outline a long time ago. I made this outline like in 2017. So I know where to go. It wasn't for other people's eyes because like there's a ton of grammatical stuff that's wrong with it, but I have to like, so so she was like, can I see it? And I was like, sure, but it's not grammatically like the best like representation. So I have to like get together with my editor and just what's it called?
Revise.
Yes, do a lot of revision. do a lot of revisions on that. So that's where I'm at. As far as like outlines and but they also need to see it so the writers and the whoever they end up getting as a showrunner has an idea of where to go. That's pretty much what's going down on that front.
That is very exciting. Like, and I want to ask you, like, even you just now talking about like there being a writer's room and things like that. Like, so with it going from being like solely something that exists in your head to something that is more of a collaboration, like, do you have any, because I know, you know, many authors are protective of their babies, and like, so do you have any I don't want to frame it in like a negative way, but any kind of concerns, like, oh my God, what if they want to kill off this very important character in episode 2? Like, do you ever think about things like that? And like,
well, I don't know how much I can say, but like,
okay, sorry.
I think they're very much about like making sure I'm happy with it, because they're savvy TV people, but they're also people that are fans and they've seen this stuff happen and go down. Like they've been doing, like, Prentice has been doing TV for the last 20 years and has seen all sorts of things happen. And he's seen it when the creator isn't involved or isn't happy with the final product, and then the show turns out to be bad and people don't like it. Or they've seen it when they've seen that happen. So they're really, like, he's reiterated a bunch of times, like, I want you to be happy, and we're going to shoot ideas. And basically, if I don't like something, and I don't think there's ever been like a thing where they've forced anything on me, they've just been like, hey, what about this? And it was not like, oh, this is concrete, we're doing this. It's like, hey, this is just an idea. What do you think of this? And I'll be like, and if it's something that doesn't, either that's the opposite of my comic, or that's not how it happens in my comic, because again, I'm only 6 issues into Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer that are out for the viewing public. So it's not that it's bad, but like, usually when you make a TV show, like Robert Kirkman has 140 issues of Invincible.
Oh.
You know, Invincible to draw upon to make a TV show that's been out, and people have like absorbed that mythology of that show, you know. So there's that. With my comic, there's only 6 issues out. In my head, I know exactly what issue 7 is going to be. I know what issue 8 is going to be. I know what issue 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and so forth is going to be. But everyone's like, I think when I met with Prentice and got this deal done, I only had 5 issues out. So people were kind of like, oh, so where's this going to go? How's it going to end? I guess I'll just make something up. But it's important for people to know where things go and how it's going to be, because it'll change how they write the comic from comic to show, but also they become teammates of mine later on. Like, we had, I can't say who it was, but we had a meeting with a showrunner who pitched his vision of the show, and what's it called? And there was like some things that I thought were great, and I'm like, wait, I was like, okay, cool. I started making some notes. I'm like, thanks for the idea, bro. Like, I'm gonna steal that and put it in my comic. Like, but they become like, when the writers' room is formed. Sometimes I'll just be sitting there making my comic, and I'm just like, and I'll sit for hours, and I'm like, I don't know how I'm gonna change this. But in a writer's room, things move faster. And now that it's 10 people, you know, I can kind of have them as my teammates when it comes to making my comic, and kind of like, you know, they'll sprinkle. They're like I've already made the cake. The cake is done. They're going to add their own icing. They're going to add their own sprinkles. They're going to add their own toppings and ice cream on it. and they're going to make this cake even more beautiful and amazing. So, yeah, I think I've never been in any situation that I've hated something. If something didn't really resonate, I would. At first, I was nervous, like I don't like that. I was really nervous because again, it is like it's very personal. Like I put a lot on the line to make this happen. Like a lot of sleepless nights, a lot of like sacrifice to make this comic book. And someone might say, like, we think this didn't happen. I'm paraphrasing. Someone might say, like, we think Harriet Tubman should be played by Beyonce. That has never and will never happen. We have an idea. Yeah. So we have an idea of who Harriet will be. But like, if someone was to do something like crazy, like I know how to be like, hey, like that doesn't work. Not just because it's my comic, and that's not because that happens in my comic. Like, I think that idea A, B, C, D, F, G doesn't work because of A, B, C, D. Because hey, I even told them, I'm like, hey, like there might be someone who has a better idea than me, and my master is Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer, not David Crownson's ego. In my comic, if I say hey in my comic and in the show they say hi, I'm not gonna like lose my mind, I just care about them honoring the essence of what the book is and honoring the tone of what the book is. And they get it. They're just like, Django meets Buffy. I'm like, yeah, pretty much. I'm like, all right, we're gonna go for that in the show. We're gonna make Django Unchained meets Buffy.
I love that pitch. Like that is just so, yeah, that is great. That is awesome.
Thanks, man. So yeah, so that's what we're going for. The violence and action of Django Unchained and the world building and supernatural mythology of Buffy. Like that's what we're going for with this show. And I'm just there just to learn and grow and become a better writer, a better creative person, a collaborator. Hopefully I become a better person on top of that. But yeah, I'm really excited, and I think that people are going to love what comes out of it. So
I want to wrap this up by asking you this question, because like we talked about earlier, you are building an empire. You're building empire, a brand. I envision a future with Kingswood Comics where there's multiple titles, like everything you talked about, everything you planned. If you could sum up what you want your creative legacy to be, what would you say that is? Like what people will be saying about your brand 20 or 30 years from now?
I want it to be that we made books that were fun, that were fun to read, and we empowered a bunch of cool, creative people. That's pretty much it. Like our books are fun and entertaining, and we empowered creative people.
Okay, David, thank you so much for being here with us today and dropping so many gems. Any final thoughts you want to share with our audience?
Yes, you can follow me on Instagram at Crownson, and you can also follow all things Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer at Harriet Tubman _Demon Slayer, and at Kingswood Comics as well. And if you want to order Kingswood Comics, any Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer comic, you can go to www.kingswoodcomics.com. And we're going to be launching a Kickstarter for my next book, Nightmare in Newark, in June. So look out for that.
Thank you for sharing that with us. Again, we're very excited about all of that over here at Geek Vibes Nation. Guys, make sure you check out Harriet Tubman Demon Slayer. Make sure you check out everything, all the great things that Kingswood Comics are coming out with. And we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you.